Welcome to this explainer. If you're watching this on a newer smartphone or laptop, you are literally holding the result of the most complex manufacturing process in human history. Today, we're diving into the absolute bleeding edge of technology, how 3 nanometer chips are actually made. So here's the ultimate engineering paradox. How do you draw a circuit line 1,000 times thinner than a human hair in total darkness using light that air itself absorbs? We're talking about extreme ultraviolet or EUV light. It operates at a wavelength of just 13.5 nanometers. That is basically borderline X-ray territory. And because literally everything absorbs it, even the oxygen we breathe, this entire process has to happen inside a total perfect vacuum. But wait, how do you even generate that specific light? Well, you need heat. A lot of it. We're talking about a localized temperature of 200,000 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that's nearly 40 times hotter than the surface of the sun. You literally need the most powerful pulsed industrial laser on the planet just to create the tiny flash of light required to draw these microscopic circuits. So let's get into Section 1, the impossible physics of EUV, and how we actually harness 13.5 nanometer light. Honestly, the way this light is generated sounds completely made up, like straight out of a science fiction movie. Picture this. Inside a total vacuum chamber, you have this insanely precise generator shooting out molten tin droplets. Each one is just 50 micrometers wide, barely a speck. As it falls, a high-powered CO2 laser fires a quick pre-pulse to flatten that droplet like a pancake. Then, bam, a massive main laser pulse hits that flattened tin, vaporizing it into a plasma at that insane 200,000 degree temperature. As the highly charged tin ions cool down, they release our magical 13.5 nanometer EUV light. And here's the kicker. This entire four-step sequence, it happens 50,000 times a second, every single second. That light is then gathered by the world's most precise mirrors made by Carl Zeiss and routed through a 200-ton machine roughly the size of a school bus. Moving on to Section 2, inside the ASML machine and the end of multi-patterning. Now you might be wondering why go through all this trouble. The economic reality boils down to one simple comparison. Before EUV, the industry relied on deep ultraviolet or DUV light. But because DUV wavelengths are larger, printing the ultra-tiny features of modern chips meant relying on a trick called multi-patterning. It was brutal. We're talking up to 34 grueling process steps, just exposing, etching, and depositing over and over for one single layer. It crushed yields and skyrocketed costs. EUV fixes this. It slashes those 34 steps down to just 9. Because the EUV wavelength is small enough, you can just print the pattern in a single, clean exposure. And they pull this off incredibly fast. ASML's newest NX83800E systems can process up to 220 silicon wafers every single hour. Throughput like that is an absolute must-have. Without it, there's just no way foundries could pump out the sheer volume of chips needed to feed our global appetite for smartphones, computers, and AI accelerators. This brings us to Section 3, manufacturing the 3nm chip and the very different paths to the same node. At this atomic scale, physical transistors are hitting some serious walls. So the biggest players had to make a choice on how to actually build their 3nm chips, and they took very different routes. TSMC played it relatively safe. They heavily optimized the classic FinFET architecture. Why? To minimize risk. Massive clients like Apple want reliable density improvements without throwing out the entire playbook. Samsung, though, they took an aggressive leap right into a brand new architecture called Gate-All-Around, or GAA nanosheets. They literally turned the transistor fins 90 degrees to stack them horizontally. This gives the gate way better electrical control over the channel. Then you have Intel carving their own aggressive path with their upcoming 18A node, which is basically their 1.8 nanometer generation. They're jumping into Gate-All-Around 2, calling their version RibbonFET, but they're pairing it with a wild new concept called PowerVia. Usually, all your power and signal wires are just fighting for space on the top of the silicon. It's a traffic jam. PowerVia completely flips the script by moving the entire power network to the back of the chip. It clears up all that routing congestion on the front and feeds power straight to the transistors from underneath. Pretty clever, right? All right, Section 4, High Nana, the next leap, and breaking the sub-2 nanometer barrier. So as always, in the semiconductor world, physics throws up another roadblock once you dip below 2 nanometers. Our current EUV systems are actually hitting their resolution limits. To push further, we have to talk about numerical aperture, or NA. It's a fundamental metric in optics. Basically, think of it as the ultimate resolution limit of the scanner's lens system. The higher the NA, the finer and smaller the details you can actually print.
This is where ASML's next-generation machines come in, known as High-NA UV. They boost the numerical aperture from the standard 0.33 up to 0.55. To achieve this, they had to design these massive, mind-boggling anamorphic mirrors. The result? It shrinks the printed features by 1.7 times. We're talking about taking the single exposure resolution from around 13 nanometers down to an incredible 8 nanometers. That jump enables transistor densities almost 3 times higher than what we had before.
But just like with transistor architecture, the adoption strategies for High-NA are totally split. Intel is going all in right now. They actually installed their first High-NA system back in 2024. Samsung isn't far behind, targeting 2025 for their own installation. TSMC, however, is playing the waiting game. They're holding off until roughly 2028 for their A14 node, deciding they'd rather squeeze every last drop of performance out of standard EUV before footing the massive bill for High-NA.
Which brings us to Section 5, the global silicon war and the geopolitical choke point.
Because this technology is literally so difficult to master and absolutely essential for everything from modern computing to AI, it has ignited a massive geopolitical conflict. Let's be clear, ASML holds a 100% absolute monopoly on commercial EUV lithography systems. Period. Nobody else on Earth can build a commercially viable EUV scanner. That makes ASML the ultimate strategic choke point. And under international export controls, these machines are strictly barred from being sold to certain countries, most notably China.
Facing a total blockade on EUV tech, China is aggressively hunting for workarounds to keep their advanced chip manufacturing alive. In the short term, they're taking those older DUV machines we talked about and pushing them to their absolute breaking points using quadruple patterning. They are essentially running the silicon through the machine 4 separate times just to draw a single layer. But the bigger news is that a state-backed consortium recently validated a functional prototype of a domestic EUV machine. To compensate for the lack of hyper-precise mechanical hardware, they're using advanced AI compute for physics software algorithms to correct light aberrations on the fly. Now, instead of using ASML's patent-protected laser-produced plasma method, the Chinese prototype utilizes what's called a laser-driven plasma, or LDP method. It cleverly bypasses restricted Western supply chains, but it comes with huge trade-offs. The output power is drastically lower, which means the machine's throughput is vastly reduced. Plus, it's a much dirtier process. It generates a ton of debris and requires constant maintenance. Bottom line, they would literally have to build 3 to 4 times as many of these LDP machines just to match the output of a single ASML scanner. So, as we stand at the threshold of the Angstrom era, looking at machines that vaporize tin at 200,000 degrees just to print lines invisible to the human eye, we're left with a pretty profound question. With physics acting as the ultimate border, will a dual ecosystem semiconductor world accelerate the future of human innovation or fracture it entirely? It is a fascinating question, and one the entire tech world is going to be watching incredibly closely over the next decade.